Coming to you from Strings and Things Studio in Ventura, California, I'm Karin.
I'm Kaity.
I'm Ann.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club. Hello, everybody.
How's it going?
It's hot.
Yeah.
There's a cool breeze here in Ventura.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
I'm loving it here.
It's definitely hot at home.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to go pack up my office, but at least we have air conditioning.
Yeah, I turned the air on for you.
We went to Monterey for the weekend, and it was overcast and chilly, and I needed a sweater. And
nice.
It was great. Well, the rest of the state was suffering.
I was in the middle of the desert in Independence, and it was 110 degrees, and we suffered. And then we drove.
It's a dry heat.
We drove home. I left a day early because I was like, I'm tired of being hot. I would like to go home. And then I blew a tire in the middle of my way home. So I am on the phone with AAA trying to tell them where I am. She's like, "What's your address?" I'm like, "I'm on the side of a freeway. I have no address." "Well, what's your cross street?" I got nothing.
The side of a highway.
So I gave her my Google Map coordinates because I figured that out.
Yep.
She goes, "Oh, you look like you're in the middle of a desert." I'm like, "Yes, I am. It's 100 degrees and I would like somebody to please come help me, please."
Quickly.
Several pleases.
Please. It's very hot.
Oh, that's
but
awful.
It's fine.
You survived.
I survived. I'm here.
Did not die.
No, I didn't die. It was close. No. James and I had driven separately because we went up on different days and I was supposed to come home later. So we ended up just being highway buddies driving at the same time. He was a couple miles ahead of me. So luckily I was able to call him and be like, "Can you please turn around and help me, please?"
Plus I need your air conditioning.
Exactly.
I need to sit in your car.
That's a good husband.
Yes. So anyway. Happy July.
Yeah. Well, so we were just giggling to ourselves.
Yeah. About how nice it was.
And we also decided, we called going to Baja California for last year's anniversary of Ventura South because it was a lot like Ventura.
Uh-huh.
Just a lot like Ventura. And then we were going to Monterey. We're like, it's Ventura North.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
But I'm going to stick with Ventura Central.
Okay.
I bet there's another Ventura-like place further north.
Yeah.
Monterey, doesn't even barely consider itself. Well, I bet it depends on who you're talking to. But I talked to somebody
it's whether we're Southern or Central California.
I talked to somebody who was like, I said something about Dixon, California, and they're like, "Is that more Northern California?" And I was like, "Well, yes, it's right next to Sacramento."
Monterey is definitely Central California coast.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, but
they're not Southern California.
No,
but
it's northern.
Are they northern? I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to.
I can see why they want to.
It's we're on the cusp. They're probably on the cusp.
I can see
but
that.
We're not on the cusp because if you
but it depends on who you ask.
Right, it does.
The Ventura County is considered LA North.
Well, that's how I feel about it. Kevin cannot handle that he lives in Southern California as someone from Northern California. So I
understand that.
This is Central Coast. And I said,
"Sure, buddy.
If you follow the 126 from Santa Clarita, which is definitely Southern California, it goes southwest a little bit."
Yeah, it goes pretty darn straight.
But actually, it's just a little south.
Even Fresno considers themselves the southernmost part of Northern California because they do not want
Central California.
They are, but they do not want to be considered southern.
Northern California's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird place.
First of all, they don't know how to use articles to describe their highways and freeways.
Well, nobody else in the United States apparently does either.
Weirdos.
Yeah.
Did I miss a story?
Well,
no, it's instead of saying,
don't
worry,
we're gonna... You'll get to your next state and get ridiculed.
You'll know.
Okay, but we always went from Fresno. We always went north. We didn't often come south.
But did you go on Highway 5 or did you go, or whatever, or did you go on the 5?
The 5.
The 5.
Yeah.
The 101, the whatever.
We went on the 99.
Yeah.
To whatever that pass.
You didn't take a 99, you took the 99.
The fruit stand. There's that famous fruit stand that had a buffalo and a goat. Well,
no.
Anyone who lived in Central California who went on any kind of school outing to the Bay Area always had to go It's a famous stop for school
Okay.
buses and fruit stand, date shakes, that kind of thing.
Oh, I know. There's like a road sign for date shakes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of a different place that's nowhere near.
There's another place in Central California that used to have
Everybody
date shakes.
claims that date shakes are like their thing because you go to like Palm Springs and it's like home of the date shake and you're like, okay, cool. And then you like drive out like Pear Blossom Highway and you go, what's that place called? Charlie Brown Farms. Yeah. And they're like, we invented the date shake. And you're like, okay, but who actually did? Because
okay, it's like who really is the original Tommy Burger?
I have no idea.
Because the original one, from what I understand, is closer to Echo Park. But other people will say, no. It's out like by San Bernardino or something like that. I don't know.
I want a Tommy Burger.
I know, right? Hey guys, let's talk about a book.
Okay, but Tommy Burger puts wheat in their food. I can't have their chili because it's got wheat. It sucks. Sorry. But if I was like this book, The Ministry of Time, I could go back and I could kidnap.
You could assassinate the person who added wheat to the chili.
Exactly. Say you think that's going to be great, but it's not. That was a bad idea.
Gluten sensitive and celiac people who would support you in this planned assassinations or coordinated assassinations. Okay, they call it something. In the
so the book that we did this time was The Ministry of Time by Kaliane.
Wait.
You know what? Yeah.
I looked it up. I heard her own voice say her name.
What is it?
Because they say in the book so many times, and she said my name right. So it's like, we better say the author's name right.
Yeah. I want to say it right.
It's Kaliane.
Kaliane.
Okay, well, the narrator of the audiobook says it differently.
I didn't listen to the audiobook.
Oh, she says Kaliane. I think.
I heard. Okay, you keep talking. I'll bring up the soundbite
Bradley.
of Kaliane saying her own name.
Kelly. It can't be Kelly. There's no S sound. It's an A.
To me, it sounded like more of a eh.
Okay.
My ears. First, I used my How to Pronounce website, and I was like, "You are leading me astray, sir."
They didn't know.
Wild. Am I reading the synopsis now?
If you want to.
Okay.
It's your book.
In the near future, a civil servant is offered the salary of her dreams to work on a top secret project. A recently established government ministry is gathering expats, in air quotes, from across history to establish whether time travel is feasible for the human body, but also for the fabric of space-time. She is tasked with working as a bridge. That means living with, assisting, and monitoring the expat known as 1847, or Commander Graham Gore. As far as history is concerned, Commander Gore died on Sir John Franklin's doomed 1845 expedition to the Arctic, so he's a little disoriented to be living with an unmarried woman who regularly shows her calves, surrounded by outlandish concepts such as washing machines, Spotify, and the collapse of the British Empire, but with an appetite for discovery, a 7-a-day cigarette habit, and the support of a charming and chaotic cast of fellow expats, he soon adjusts. And I'm going to stop there. So first question we always ask, how did you feel about the book?
I'm going to derail that.
Okay.
This is her own voice.
I'm Kaliane Bradley.
Kaliane.
From Walthamstow. And I'm a writer and editor.
Okay, there you go.
Kaliane.
Theatre and dance.
It's the British accent that's throwing us off.
But let me show you how to pronounce it.
I think that they put I know that there are like how to pronounce people who make like YouTube videos. Wait, what?
Sorry to do that.
Oh no, it's okay. Kaliane. Yeah, it's Kaliane.
No. I'm like, that's not right.
That's not it.
Not right. Okay,
Kaliane.
Kaliane. So,
Okay,
thoughts and feelings. Back to
Karin. This might be my favorite book that we've ever read.
Wow. That's a big sentence.
I mean, Wayward was holding that title.
I really loved,
I love Wayward, yeah.
So they are probably tied.
I picked a good one.
Yeah. You usually pick good ones. I just don't
feel a few that even I snoozed at.
Warm as I did to this book.
I enjoyed this book thoroughly, but I do feel like there was a moment where I was like, is anything going to happen?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Like it took, like the middle chunk of the book was like, okay, like I would like something to happen, please.
Just speed up a little bit.
Well, I was like, Karin said there's romance.
I'm okay with like, I'm okay with a slow burn romance. Like I know at the end something's going to happen. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But there was a moment where I was like, what is what are we doing? Like,
we're just living together, and
I enjoy the slice of life, but like, let's see what's going on. Like, I would like to know what's happening now, please.
I'm 100% obsessed. That is how I feel about this book.
Okay.
Yeah. And I probably will listen to the audiobook when the my hold comes up at the library.
Nice. Yeah, the audiobook was good. Sometimes I have a hard time. I couldn't listen to it as fast as I wanted to because of the accents. Because I had it on like 1.5 speed. I was like, no, I can't.
Go back to 1.
I was at 1.25 for the whole thing, but
Interesting.
it was
I'll
too
keep
fast.
that in mind when I get my turn.
There's one character that I just absolutely cherish, but we'll get to her.
I love them all.
Yeah.
I mean, Cardingham can go eat poop, but
yeah. Okay, so before I get into the questions, because there are book club discussions for this book, but speaking of characters, so we have the Adela. No, which one's Adela? Adela is
first of all, we don't know the narrator.
Yeah, the narrator doesn't have a name.
Ever know her name.
Yep.
Ever.
Oh,
I love that because like halfway through you're like, wait a minute, what is this person's name?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it was intentional to not give them a name.
Yeah, every time she says, like Adela says her name right, I'm like, but what's her name?
But what is your name?
Wait a minute,
yeah,
so we
and
don't
at
know
the
bitch's
end,
name?
no.
And,
You're right.
And Graham
how did I not know
ever
that?
calls
He
her
only
little
sa-
cat.
He says her name once, and she says, "Oh, this is the only time he's ever said my
Yes,
name."
But he does. We don't see it.
It's just he called
I
out my
understand
name, and
why
you're
now.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah."
I understand why
Yeah.
now, though.
Yeah.
But it can't be the same as the...
No, it's not. Her name, Adela, is a chosen name.
Gotcha.
But then they start calling her Adela Gore, and I was like, did she never notice that Adela's
I don't.
last name
Yeah,
was
maybe
Gore?
they didn't know her last name, but I feel
Right.
like you would have known
Or
your boss's
or
last
she
name.
Starts calling, like maybe she's just calling her Adela Gore in her head,
Maybe.
or I don't know what.
I
Because
don't know, because, I mean, isn't there like a nameplate on your boss's desk? Maybe not. Maybe not. This is spycraft.
Yeah, maybe.
So, of a sort. I guess it's not spy. It's
It's spycraft. Yeah,
feels like spycraft.
it's intrigue over the ages.
Yeah. So I'm gonna see. I wish they had a list of the cast of characters. I'm gonna look up the characters because there was a few different ones that stood out. Let me add another.
Well,
Add more
have,
insight.
Our main couple, nameless narrator.
Yep.
And Graham Gray, Commander Graham Gray.
Graham Gore.
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 Thank you. Good. They call him Gray. That is why
Yes.
His friends call him Gray. That's why it's
His
stuck in
name
my
is
head.
Graham.
Thank you. Okay, so those are the main characters. Then Adela is her mean boss. Quentin is her handler.
Mm-hmm.
The Brigadier and Celise are
Bad guys.
villain characters from the future.
Yep.
But are they villains?
I don't know.
And
There was a couple times where I got confused over the one whose name starts with S.
Celise.
Celise is the Brigadier's partner in crime.
And then there was someone else that was a fellow bridge, like her
Yes.
her good friend.
That's
Somalia.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I got their names incorrect.
Somalia is the
Oh, here it
bridge
is.
for Arthur.
Maggie has Ralph, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember his
And then
name.
Cardingham
You're right. It
has
even says
his no name.
nameless
Some other person.
FMC narrator.
So, can I tell you what I
Yeah.
learned about that? Did you guys look up Rogue Mail at all?
No, I meant
Okay.
to, but I ran out of time.
So Rogue Mail is the book that she gives him all kinds of books that she's trying to like mold his consciousness of the present time. And Rogue Mail is one that he reads dozens of times. It's about a British spy, nameless narrator, who is trying to assassinate a European villainous dictator.
Got it.
Which the author, there's a Wikipedia entry about it. The author chose to not, he had Hitler in mind when he was writing it. I think it came out in 1939. But he chose not to be too specific so that readers could choose Hitler or Stalin.
Got it.
So this is like homage
Mhm.
to
Interesting.
the book she has him read. Anyway,
Very cool.
like I
Yeah.
said, I'm obsessed.
So you said we got the nameless
Okay,
character.
then we have
Graham
the other
Gore,
expats.
Margaret, then
Maggie,
Captain Arthur
Margaret.
Reginald Smythe,
Mhm.
Adela Quentin, the Brigadier, Celeste, Thomas Cardingham, Semelia, Ed, Ralph, and Ivan. I guess it must have been...
Ed, Ralph, and Ivan must all be... I mean, they're all bridges. So
Right.
I think Ralph is Maggie's bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Ivan is Cardingham? No, Ivan was Anne's, because they talk about Ivan
Right.
drifting off the scene and how
Right.
she feels bad.
So
she never
Ed
checked
would
if
be
Cardingham's
bridge.
Captain James Fitzjames. That was the
From
guy
the expedition.
from the expedition. Captain
Yes. Oh, we're
Crozier.
gonna go into those? Okay.
Yeah.
Lieutenant. There's other ones.
Those are all
Those
So-
are your
real
mains. Yeah.
Margaret.
historical
Is
people.
Margaret who we're calling Maggie?
Yes.
Okay. Also, what was her date? 16.
16.
Whenever the plague was, I don't remember.
Because there are two from the
that
1600s.
also got me a little confused too.
Yeah.
I was confused when they were calling each other by their numbers sometimes
Yes.
because I couldn't remember who was who.
Because Arthur was 1916, so they'd call him 16, and
Right.
that would throw me a little bit. I'd have to
Instead
do
of
like a
16.
medal.
Oh, you're right. That's why I thought there were
So
two.
Graham is 47.
Mhm.
There are two from the 1600s,
There are.
Cardingham, and Cardingham is the earlier ones, which I think is 37.
Yeah.
And I think so. She's 65.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think.
65.
1665.
And Anne was from the 1700s.
Anne?
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Anne
don't
is
even...
the one that totally disappears.
Oh.
No, she doesn't totally disappear. She disappears from scans.
Yeah.
But they kill her.
Yeah,
in the
she
war.
dies. Yeah.
They assassinate
Yeah.
her.
Yep.
We never really got to meet her.
No.
She was just spoken of.
Yeah.
That's why she's not listed as a character. But we know she was. Okay. So going back to the questions. Toward the beginning of the book, the bridge declares, "Set your narrative as canon, and in a tiny way you have pried your death out of time, as long as the narrative is recalled by someone else. With this in mind, consider the power and also the danger of narrative. Do you believe narrative is used as a weapon at all in this story?"
Yes.
That's a big question.
Well, because the end of the book, she's addressing herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
Plot twist.
does she go back again?
Yeah. Or is it just
I'm full of
like
questions.
does she have to write this account down so that has a record of it, because all of this never happened according to the ministry, right? She
Yes.
deletes everything and they're like, okay, call it quits.
Yes.
So does she write this for herself in the future just as like for posterity, or because of something confusing with time travel?
Right.
I gotta tell you, I hate time travel in books and movies because it
yeah.
confuses me every time. I'm like, wait a minute, are we in the past or the future? I don't remember. This one wasn't so
In the
bad
now
because it
or
takes
the
place
future
in
now?
current time, right?
Yes.
Everything's happening now,
Yes. the
and when it's
flashbacks are
not,
very
right?
crystalline.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But at the end, things were getting a little wibbly wobbly,
Yes.
and I was like,
Yes.
what's huh? I'm confused.
Well, so I caught Adela saying, like, you don't, like, before it didn't happen such and such way, and then our narrator's like, before?
Yeah.
And Adela's like, catch up!
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, they're in a time loop.
Yeah.
That's where I thought it was going, which I find those very tedious.
Yeah.
But that is not what was happening, perhaps.
Perhaps.
So, Katie, you're saying, like, time travel, boo, right?
Not necessarily. It's just,
Okay.
it makes me feel dumb.
Well, so then...
Because I'm like, some other smart person understands what's happening.
I-
But it also could be that I was, like, hurrying to finish the book
Yes.
because I finished it today.
Yeah.
So I should have given myself more time.
No, so in the beginning, when they're like, I keep hearing the phrase hand waves. They do a hand wave of like, don't worry about how this all works. Just trust that Britain figured this out.
Yeah.
Sometime in the near future. Don't worry about how it works. But
Okay.
that's also because she doesn't know. We find out like she doesn't know
She
how
doesn't know
it
anything
works.
about how it works.
Yeah.
And also, they don't know anything about how it
Right.
works. They didn't invent time travel.
They reached in the door and they took it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, look at this thing. Britain owns it now.
Oh, mine. Which is a very
Yeah.
British
That's
way.
very classic.
Look at this toy. It's my toy now.
And guess what? We invented it. Okay.
Okay.
But you know what they did?
What?
They didn't.
Well,
Because
true,
in the
but
future-
not in current whenever this book takes place.
But how reckless when they're even talking about when the door first appears. Here, you go in, you touch it,
I mean, somebody's got to touch it.
and then people explode.
Yeah. The one poor man, what did they say? Running through the halls with his entrails in his pants. Oh my god, that is vivid.
Yeah.
Poor soul. Okay, carry on. What was the question?
Something about narrative.
Do you believe narrative is
yeah.
used as a weapon at all in the story?
I think from where my first reaction was like, yes, she's going to use it as a defensive tool. So she's telling this story from her point of view to give to perhaps another future self or another past self.
Maybe. You're right, because she could use it in the future. I don't know.
I know, it's confusing because the future people come back to try to kill her.
Yeah.
And she's like, why are they trying to kill me? I don't know anything.
You don't know what you've become to us.
Yeah.
That's what I think Celeste says that.
Yeah, but I'm not that now. Give me a chance to change.
Everybody wants to go back and kill baby Hitler.
Right.
You
don't know what's going to happen.
Crib and, slaughter a baby? What about our sweet little cat? Why would we hurt her?
She doesn't seem like a monster.
She's just a language translator with a hot roommate.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question.
More
yes,
ways, though,
yes,
I think,
more ways.
too.
Okay.
So, like, Adela weaponizes a story when she comes back and, molds the ministry or joins the ministry.
Invents the whole ministry.
Yeah, she's like, this is coming. You're going to need to reach in and, like, she tells them that they're going to have access to
Well,
this.
she's the one who who figured out the door for them, so they had to kind of listen to her.
But
I
did
got the
she
sense...
figure it out, or does she just know because somebody else did it in the past and needs it to happen again the same way?
Now we're in a time.
I'm so confused.
Also,
I want to jump off that train.
I feel like maybe this is because, like, Loki and the mythology that's happening in the Marvel universe of the time,
right?
Like all the timelines having branches.
Those branches
branching off.
Yeah, that was frustrating
because supposedly
enjoyable but frustrating.
Our narrator is on a different timeline now,
right?
Because she mentioned a different horrible tragedy instead of 9/11,
right?
So, but also personal narrative is a weapon. Graham almost weaponizes not sharing about his own internal life but I think it's a protective tool. Like, as I talk this out, I'm like, yeah, I think narrative is a weapon in this, but always to protect.
Yes. Yeah.
Like a defensive tool.
Yeah. There's a lot of his story that we don't hear happening. Like, he has, found this whole safe house, done all this planning in case everything goes to shit that nobody else apparently thought about. Because when everything hits the fan, he's like, okay, this is where we're gonna go. Here's your gun. Get your clothes. Put your clothes on. And, like, all of that part of the story that we never are privy to,
What kind of officer would I be if I didn't do this?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder that his experiences in his time, plus being ripped out of his time, and then how awful is it to find that, oh, well, it was okay to rip you out because you were going to die anyway. No one else survived.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I appreciated the feeling. I felt so empathetic for these characters who were basically kidnapped and thrown into a world that they never asked for. Sure. I mean, I am the only one I think was not unhappy about that was Maggie, but I don't want to talk about her yet.
Okay.
Because what
are you holding back on Maggie?
I just love Maggie.
Well,
okay, talk about it.
Tell us more about
I love
Maggie.
The evolution of Maggie, that she came from the 1600s, a time where women had, like, no choices. And
she was described as a domestic burden.
A domestic burden. And she's like, hey, I get to be a swinger. She's coming from a time where we always think the women's role in marriage and the sanctity of the marriage bed, but not everybody in the Middle Ages felt that way. And she didn't have any choices, but now she's got choices. So I just when you hear her on the audiobook, she's just delightful to me. You know,
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, she was never going to fit in because her manner of speech is just so of her
I think
time.
they made her Norwegian or something in her backstory.
Yeah, she was a little difficult to understand, and I was thinking as I was listening to the book that it would have been a difficult book to read and to parse what
So-
people were trying to tell me.
In the audiobook, are they doing the voices?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, no,
'Cause I saw-
accents, yeah.
Well, I saw that there's 2 narrators, so I figured the male narrator was probably for Graham's.
Yeah. But the female
backstory.
narrator does everybody
I
else.
love it.
So, did you ever see the British version of Ghosts?
Yes.
And you know the serving wench with a really
Yes.
thick. Maggie reminds me of her.
I love her so much.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
That's
so,
a good character.
so that's what I'm saying. When you imagine
But
her
Maggie's
in Maggie's,
so sharp, and that character has her wit in a way, but that character is dull. Like, not the
so
smartest.
Maggie, so that character, but
the
smart.
voice,
The
yeah.
voice,
Yeah, I
but
can
smart.
hear the voice.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love
Anyway.
that character.
That's what. Maybe that's why.
That's
I
one
love
of those
Maggie
rare
so much.
shows where Ghosts UK and the American one are both equally as good, I think.
See, I didn't care for the American ones, but
Oh, I like
but
the
I
American
bonded
one
with
too.
the British ones
Yes.
first, so I might be tainted.
I have room in my heart for both.
So at the beginning of the book, Adela tells the bridge that the ministry prefers to refer to the time travelers as expats rather than refugees. This is set up in contrast with the experience of the bridge's mother, who was automatically labeled a refugee after leaving Cambodia. What do you think about the authors trying to communicate by using the vocabulary of immigration in the context of time travel? How do the experiences of the expats and the bridge's mother compare, and why might the ministry be invested in categorizing them differently?
Well, the mother was categorized as an expat or
Or
a refugee. Like they're saying that's not what she was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the time travelers are also not refugees. Like they were kidnapped from their timeline and brought into a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, a refugee is somebody who leaves a place because they know that they have to. They had no clue that they were leaving or asked if they wanted to leave. They were taken out of their timeline. So they're also not expats because I feel like that also implies some sort of choice to leave
Right,
somewhere.
Neither term is quite.
They're not using that term right for either of those people.
And I think of the term not in respect to what they call themselves, but how the British accept or don't accept. Oftentimes, the people accepting refugees have negative attitudes toward refugees versus the term expat. When if you watch House Hunters and you see all these foreigners, I mean, they are immigrants, but they don't call themselves immigrants. They call themselves expats. There's a subtlety to that language that makes them feel better about themselves because they don't want to consider. I've heard people get very angry when they go to live in some other country to be called an immigrant when they're like of Western heritage because they have negative attitudes towards that term and they don't want to associate themselves with that, even though in fact that is what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who leaves a country or space to go live in another.
But you could call somebody whatever you want to make yourself feel better about it. And the British government calls them expats because it sounds better than saying refugees, but the true point of it is it all sounds better than kidnappee.
Yeah.
Right? Like anything's
hostage.
better than hostage.
Everything's
yeah.
better than hostage.
All of that's better,
Yeah.
because they are kept in a secure location for weeks until they're allowed to go to their house, and then they have to stay in their house for months, and then they're like,
Basically,
okay, you could travel a little bit. And then it's like, okay, just kidding, you can't travel, you have to go to this other house. So, like, you are captive in one location. Like, house arrest is a thing.
Well, while we're talking, I was Googling,
Mm-hmm.
like, the definition of it, and I think this could lend some interesting insight in this framing. Expat typically refers to someone living temporarily abroad, often for work, while maintaining ties to their home country. So, like, that temporal nature of the word
Uh-huh.
is Like, they didn't know exactly what they're going to do with these people.
And nobody knew. He's like, oh, we're never going to go back, are we?
And could they even...
would
they even...
return them?
Would they even persist to exist in this time?
Right.
Like, what happens when they disappear? Are they in the ether?
I don't know.
Well, and that's interesting because it sounds like they have tried this many, many times, unsuccessful. I got the sense that they tried. They felt like mentally a lot of them just don't make it.
I felt like that was part of the untold story.
Yeah,
is like, have there been other expats?
Right.
But then I started to let go of that because of the revelation that there can only be so many travelers at a time.
Right, because I was kind of thinking that the Brigadier was one of these people that had then, like, in Gore's timeline, he becomes, like, top at the ministry, right? So I'm like, well, maybe that's what this guy's deal is, because there's something off about him.
Yes.
So I figured he was from the past, not from the future.
Poorly researched future.
Right.
Well, and something about the Brigadier that bothered me is, like, this guy just shows up wherever he wants. Well, how good is the security of the ministry when this guy just can come in and have access to whoever, and before anyone clues in, oh, he doesn't belong here.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. Does anyone check that guy's ID?
Brigadier what?
Yeah. I didn't really understand him.
Yeah, but when you say you're a general...
Sure, but I could walk in and say, I'm a general, and nobody's going to look at my... Well, yeah. Nobody's going to look at my credentials?
But he wasn't just at social events. He was deep into the bowels of the ministry. He had access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one...
Thanks, Mole.
And nobody questioned? Well...
Isn't that a funny
bureaucracy.
thing about the human mind, too? Of, like...
If you play it off well enough that you belong, people don't question it.
You wear a uniform and you act like you're supposed to be there. Who's going to question whether or not you are?
And Adela, whom... We don't know at what point Adela knew that he was not legit.
Right.
It probably behooved her to keep him in her sights.
Probably.
So even though she was in on it, she could keep tabs on them better that way.
I kind of loved the concept that there's a finite amount of space for people going in and out of time. That it's not this expanding door that more and more people can come in and out. It's like, okay, there's a limited amount of space.
I love that you're saying this out loud.
And like Semelia or somebody else wanted to go home. Not Semelia.
Celise and
Celise. Yeah, they want to go home, but they can't get through the door because there's too many. There was something like they could not get back.
I don't think they had access to the door.
No. I don't think they did.
But you know what?
They had to basically kill someone. Oh, that's why they're going after our unnamed narrator, who did not know that she was part of the door. No, she wasn't part of the door. I don't know.
Well, they do say something about, like, they scan, right? And they scan Graham, and they're like, he's a free traveler. And then they scan her, and they say something about her.
Yeah.
And then they go to kill her. So, is she a 2-for-1 deal?
I don't know.
Because she is from now and then. Or that part got a little bit, as you said,
a little squishy.
Wobbly.
Yeah,
a little squishy.
So you just brought up something perfect that I did not see. Limited space, not enough room for everyone to travel. That is how immigrants and refugees are being treated all over the planet right now.
That's true.
When in fact, there's plenty of room and plenty of space for all of us.
Right.
Like, if we all just adapted our frames, there's room enough for every human being on the planet.
And I never understood why it's so difficult. Oh, it's more difficult for some citizens from some countries to get. Why? Well, I mean, I do. There's policies involved.
No, it's pure racism.
It's
racism
pure
racism. There's racism involved.
Which I think this book does a very artful examination of closeness to whiteness, of white privilege, of handling of immigrants and refugees and how they're framed, that probably only Kaliane could do, because it reflects her own personal history.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, her own heritage.
As a British Cambodian person.
But,
yeah,
I think she did a really interesting examination of, like, you know, Samila just, she just calls her out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think you wanted to be my friend, but you were always so careful, always trying so hard not to say the wrong thing, but also you want to be part of the ministry. You want to be part of this machine.
She kind of fell into the competition of, you know, there's limited space. I'm going to make sure that I'm the one picked kind of attitude, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Like there was a competition happening in her own head when the other woman just did want to be her friend and ally.
Yeah.
Which ends up being her own demise because she rejects her. She rejects the truth coming from her colleague.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of is a self-damnation.
Yeah, there's a lot of different examples of how racism is present in modern day society, where it's like these people back from like the 1600s, like, you know, they think one way, or like Graham is like has to deal with the fact that like, oh, he was on a slave ship, like, and you know, the things that he thinks about and associated with that. And then you have the narrator's what's the word, experience in being like a daughter to, like, she's a mixed race person. Her father's white, her mother is straight from Cambodia, and her experience, like, she goes on a whole there's a whole section of the book where she's talking about all of her experiences with microaggressions and her sister and how the two of them interact differently with this. And then there's Somalia, who is a black woman, and her experience with it, and then also how the narrator and Somalia interact with each other and like interpersonal relationships between people of color, and stepping lightly on the things that you say. And like, like she says, like, oh, she has an afro now and it looks great on her, but I don't know if I'm supposed to tell her that. Like, as a person of color herself, to also not know how to, you know, walk through all of these things.
She has the privilege of passing.
Yeah.
That she can appear to be a European descent to the people that she chooses to, but also that she touches on the not belonging anywhere, because you don't have a side to side on.
Right. Yeah, I think this book was an interesting take on like time travel in general for a lot of reasons, and the parallels between that and like modern day race relations and stuff. I also thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So you brought up a good word, parallels. This next question says, consider the parallels between the Victorian era norms Graham espouses and those of the Bridges near future era, almost identical to our own. Do any of the similarities or differences surprise you?
Between Graham's expectations and the near future. The similarities?
Or differences.
Well, I love when they finally get together. But he's like, I've been courting you all this time.
She's like, what?
and that's a real thing of like, people don't know how to tell each other that they're into each other.
Right.
And that maybe that's like a universal.
He's like, you enjoy my cooking. She's like, and then when he talks to Maggie about like, what does you that way? What does dating mean? And she's like, you asked a lesbian from the 1600s about what dating means in the modern era. And it's like, well, yeah, I get, like, she explains it to him. She's like, that does sound extremely confusing for somebody who's not from here. Like, you just kind of have to go. There's no time when you say you love them or not, or like, do you want to be together? You kind of just have to guess. And he's like, huh?
Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of similarity. Well, maybe like an overlap. Like if you drew a Venn diagram of like she's quizzing him on his sexual prowess and experience, and she's like, you know, the gist is you've clearly done this before.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, not with anyone I would have courted. So
See,
there's like
okay, there's the ones you want to marry and the ones you just want to.
Yeah, the one you bring home to mom and the one you don't. So the like that's a real or like he still had a sexual freedom as is enjoyed by most modern people now of having the amount of sex they want or do not want to have. Yeah. I also really like in that part where she's like, and how about with men? Like, well, sometimes it's a long time at sea.
Yeah. She's like, what does that mean? It's like, you dumbass, you know exactly what that means.
Come on. You know.
I mean, that was as good as a confession as you were gonna
get.
Yeah. So this next one involves technology and how the expats. Now, this one the question only talks about gore, but I would like to open it up to like how the expats in general connected with modern technology. Like, for instance, Gore is fascinated by Spotify and he loves a hot bath, but he rejects television and other modern conveniences. What surprised you most about his encounters with technology? What elements of modern life would you expect to be most appealing and most off-putting to someone from the Victorian era? Or really, in how they interacted? Any of them.
I loved how Maggie was like, you don't watch TV? Like, she's going to film school, like, that's her thing. Yeah. But it's also reflective of, like, that happens nowadays. Like, I have family members that don't own a television, and I'm like, you don't watch TV? At all? Yeah, and they're like, no, not really. I'm like, what do you do with your time?
Borrow, like, well, you don't rent movies anymore now, either. To stream movies?
Yeah. That's a verb you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then she also elucidates that he has so many dynamic interests, right?
Right.
So he's very active. He's building his cooking repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from barely being able to make a basic spaghetti to making very complex
fancy things,
meals from all over the world. And he plays the flute, and he draws, and he loves reading, and he loves his
motorcycle. Yeah.
His motorcycle. Yeah. Of all the modern tech, things, like, from where he was at, they didn't have. Do they have motorcycles in the 1800s?
No,
not that far back.
Like, they only had steam,
because they're going by steam.
Right, you don't have the internal combustion engine yet.
Mm-hmm.
No. So that must have been amazing to him. And the freedom to be able to just hop on something and go, and you don't have to feed it first or brush it down or put the saddle on, And the fact that he could get music from... Oh, he said something about, like, at first, he likes it, but he also didn't like it. He felt like it was dishonoring.
Yeah, like it was wrong.
To just listen to anything anytime you want.
It reduces the value of the thing when you can access it whenever you want to.
That was the guilt of gluttony.
Yeah.
In that moment.
But it's funny what he holds on to for that and what he doesn't, because he's like, I don't watch TV. That is offensive to me. Like,
yeah.
But you listen to whatever music he wants at whatever, whenever he wants to. I also liked him texting where he's like, this took me half an hour to write my text message. It's like texting your dad.
That was delightful. Yeah. He turned his phone on. It was a great honor.
Yeah.
That is like texting a parent.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Interspersed between the regular chapters are short passages set during the Franklin expedition. How do these passages, the only part of the book not from the perspective of the bridge, alter the way you consider Graham's character and experience? Because this is like the only way that we really get to know Graham, because he's not going to tell us. So the author has to sort of pry some of that out. And I felt a little confused. Well, let's go do this first, and then I'll talk about my confusion.
It gave us that window into Graham that we weren't getting from the narrator's point of view. So we got to see him in the wild.
Uh-huh.
It also made me distrust him a little bit because, like, when he shoots the Inuit man, like that, he says something about, and I've killed before. And then they show us the scene of him killing the man, and we don't know who it is at first. So, like, that whole journey of what turns out to be a pure accident makes me worried about
Right.
how dangerous he is and what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it gave us a bond with the people he left behind.
Yeah.
So when he's researching what the outcome of their demise was, and he gets stuck on the cannibalism, which would be very upsetting to find out
to
about.
Yes, it would.
Like, I had to look up what pot polishing is. You guys-
I don't know. I
didn't
didn't.
look it up.
I wanted to know, like, well, what
does that mean?
That's
right?
licking the plate, but licking the pot, right?
No, it's so because she's trying to offer him like evidence that yes, that is
This is a thing that happened.
It really happened because that's how desperate they were. It's cooking. It's marks on the bones from cooking usually in a ceramic vessel, and so
Oh, I understand.
like you could not just the knife marks or possible teeth marks, but there was also like marks from the bones that only come archaeologically from cooking bones.
Right.
Mm.
Which would have polished the pots as they were stirred around in the
It
pot.
polishes the bone.
Got it. Oh, I understand.
Like, can you imagine? Like, that's one of the things that sticks with me from Walking Dead. Is you did not watch Walking Dead, right?
No.
But they get to Terminus. Sorry, it's an old series at this point if you haven't watched it. They get to Terminus, right? And they, I mean, they're about to be slaughtered like animals.
Yeah.
And the people there are like living in Eden. Just eating other human beings like they were, as it's called, long pig. Like, so the idea that your compatriots chopped each other up and made a soup.
Yeah.
Like, because he has a nightmare about it, where his someone he knew was bloodthirsty,
and he says like, "Oh, that wasn't a person, that wasn't food or whatever.
He's a man, not
a meal or
something like that." Like, his nightmare is a little bit more fathomable because like you could see like the man devolved to an animal. Like an animal would attack and just eat the carcass, right? Yeah. But when you cook the meat...
Yeah, that's a different thing.
That's still a very human behavior. So, like it's easier to understand cannibalism if you make it animalistic. Like, that's how I feel.
Like,
but when... For me, I was really stuck on that. Like, that's a very human behavior to cook.
Especially for someone who grew up in the glory of the empire, the most civilized people.
Exactly.
Right.
They
never devolved to such a, a savage thing.
But no, they made a stew.
They made a stew. That made them, that to me, that's so much worse.
So the flashbacks linked me to Graham and his history in a way that made all of it more visceral.
Mm. It helped me understand Graham's reaction, and to me it was necessary for his character to understand his character. So he wasn't, because when he's in the now, and he's of a people where men don't share, and he wasn't going to share privately anything until, so that's the only way that, and I feel like in the afterwards notes, the author put did a lot of historical research, and I think these little tidbits sprinkled throughout the book were her way of being able to pull Graham's time, because he's clearly a very important person to the future of the Ministry of Time. He's given
Della's timeline.
Yeah,
right?
well, and notice how much privilege he's given, actually, more than anybody else.
I love that part of the book.
He's given charge of all kinds of stuff. His intelligence is fed, and they're happy to use him more than any other expat.
I love how she describes that nature in him, about the charming, likable person, that room's always made for them, that they can just move through spaces because people like them.
Yeah.
Like,
and he knows that.
I wonder what that's like.
Right. We love you.
Yeah. I moved through the
but
spaces
also
over the
I
space.
wonder about it too.
Yeah. I'm like,
he knows. He says like, "Oh, I was charming to them and they let me."
Yeah.
You know? Like he knows what he could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that is probably also historically how you got things done.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
you
I
want
love-
something done, you gotta schmooze somebody.
I love that she like figures out that he's stolen everything from the ministry because she had the knowledge of the missing sextant. I
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
Like a historian noted this about you, and he's like, oh, "Yes, it was a good sextant.
Yeah.
I did take it.
I did steal that, actually. You're right. Did either of you look up his portrait?
Yes, I've been dying.
He's- He's not as handsome as I was expecting him to be.
I know.
But I can't imagine him being charming. Like, he seems like a dashing
think-
young man, you know?
Okay.
I think charm adds sparkle to any feature.
Okay, I think he's very cute. But
Okay.
I did not, so you guys get to see
Oh, I
my.
can't wait.
So
Okay.
show me, and I'll react.
I'm like dancing in my seat. I
There
can't
he
wait
is.
to
Yeah.
show you. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh, he could be.
Okay, so
oh,
he's
he would
not
be
he's
fun.
not as cute as, but okay.
But
first
look at
off,
the attitude. Look at the personality.
it's time to cast him. Yeah, look at the personality.
Look
right?
at that personality of.
And she actually describes him exactly like that picture. An
Yes.
overlong nose.
Just the he looks like he'd be so fun to be like at a game night with.
Okay. Step one, it's Johnny Bernthal.
I
Okay.
don't know who that is.
You do.
Okay.
I hope you do. I mean, maybe you don't.
I'm gonna Google him.
Well, he's Walking Dead. He's the
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes.
Punisher.
I've seen this person
He's
before.
in The Bear.
Yep.
Okay, I did some side by sides, so I'm just looking for where they went. Where did they go? Okay, here's a good picture of Johnny Bernthal that I think is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just
Oh my gosh.
promoting a local actor.
He's
He lives in Ohio.
Oh,
absolutely.
does he? Everybody lives in Ohio.
I could totally see him.
And I thought maybe he's too tall because he reads as like over 6 feet when I watch movies with him, but he's 5'11".
Okay.
So he's
but I
perfect.
kind of think the guy reads as tall, doesn't he?
This-
Tall in personality.
She says it. She says he is 1 inch short of the average of today,
Uh-huh.
but he was a couple inches taller than the average of his time.
Ah. I totally see him
okay.
playing that part.
But then because
This should be
like,
a movie.
I spent it really too long working on this last night. Okay, so the eyes aren't quite right.
No.
So then I was thinking Jake Johnson from New Girl.
Yeah. He's a little too goofy.
Right. So then I got
Yeah.
thinking, could either of these guys pull off a British accent?
I don't know.
I mean, no one knows.
So
They'll
there,
want AI just do it for him.
Maybe.
there is
Okay.
I know
go ahead.
That's not really what
I'm
actors
not
want.
done.
Okay.
So Tom Hardy is a fair.
I do love Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy is a fair.
I could see him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Game of Thrones. I forget that this guy's I don't know if he says his name is Michael or Michelle Huseman, who was the original Darius, whatever from Game of Thrones, and then he was in
Oh,
Haunting
that
of
man
Hill
looks
House,
familiar. Yep.
and he's in the new Rebel Moon movie, which I wonder if you guys have watched. This.
I haven't yet.
No.
I think it's. I don't understand why they rejected it. This is an even better picture, I think, but it's still not quite right.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
And
I
who
think
was that?
The first guy,
His
except
name
for
is Michelle or Michael Huseman.
I think your first suggestion was the best suggestion.
Johnny Bernthal.
If he could pull off the British,
Which I'm not sure.
I don't know if he can.
Because he has a certain brand.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if we're just going to cast a handsome Brit.
You
we
can't cast him for everything.
Tell us who you're.
So I've shown them a very good picture of Henry Cavill.
He looks young in that picture.
Probably.
He looks like a baby. You can't
Yeah.
put Henry Cavill in everything. Okay.
That's my favorite fan
That's my
casting of the,
fantasy, so yes, I
co-stars. Everybody.
Everybody? Yeah. So there is an AMC series called
Terror.
The Terror.
Yes. So, then I
So he
was
is
yeah.
a real person.
Yeah. So here you go.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, his name is Tom Weston
Oh.
Jones.
Yep.
I realized
Is he British?
they cast him as Graham Gore. He is British.
He plays
Okay.
Graham Gore.
So now I'm watching The Tear because I started it and I didn't like it,
Okay.
but I'm like
The
oh, but
terror
now I'm
or the
obsessed.
tear?
The
Terror.
Terror, which is the
Okay.
name of one of the boats. It's the Erebus and the Terror.
Oh, I thought they were saying Terra.
Oh, well, it's
I just
Terror.
listened to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait,
Yeah.
so they're making a movie of this already?
There's a show. It's a horror anthology called about this expedition. That Graham
about
Gore
the
was on.
expedition. Gotcha.
He's actually. I don't think he's a good casting,
He's fine.
but I really like him. I've loved him in everything.
Okay.
I've seen him. He was in a terrible Canadian produced show called Copper, which was about a cop in 18th century or 1800s-ish New York, where everyone's accent was trash. But you could imagine that in New York at that time, there'd be a real interesting
lot of
mix of accents. Then he's in The Warrior, which is a show I love that's on Netflix. So basically, because he's done with The Warrior, if this becomes a movie, because it's a very popular
He's
book,
kind of set it up already.
it would be canonical because the Terror, he's in the Terror. He supposedly dies on this expedition, and then they just
pull him. And they just pull him into the
Ministry of Time. It would.
There you go.
I still think Johnny Bernthal is the best looking.
Visually, yeah.
And then the other thing I'm obsessed with is when they go to the Turner exhibit.
Yeah.
Because have you guys seen Turner's paintings in person? The Getty had an exhibition maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and Turner's art. I love how they characterize this, because they're like, oh, we're going to see paintings.
We're going to go look at
ships.
paintings of big boats.
When I went, because I just love the Getty and whatever they show, I'm going to show up for. But I felt like Maggie.
Yeah.
Like, meh.
And then you go and you're like our narrator who's just like standing there with her mouth wide open.
Yeah, his paintings are breathtaking, and they almost like, his underpaintings are almost like modern art, like an amazing artist. If you told me I was going to see a bunch of paintings of big ships, big boats,
big boats,
and that's a fun way to make a sailor mad.
Yeah, I love that. I love how they keep doing it, and he's like, oh
yeah.
That is a perfect segue to my next question.
Yeah. So those were the three like branches of like, oh, you have touched my heart, Turner. Anyway.
While there are many sources of tension in this story, there's also a wealth of comic relief, from the Bridges chicken bag to Margaret's vocabulary, insults in particular, to the various ways the expats responded to the phenomenon of the future: washing machines, Spotify, germs. How did the author's sense of humor influence how you perceived the characters and their situations? I just want to talk about how they responded to stuff too, like germs, like getting sick.
I like that part.
Yeah.
I could have used more of the like I really liked this story, but I almost wanted just like a version of this that was like the lighter romance, like, haha, look at all these funny things that they're doing and now they're falling in love. Like, like that also would have been a fun book to read, but then there was like the spy intrigue of it all. But I do like when he took apart their whole toilet because he wanted to figure out how it worked.
Well, if you want that, Katie, you can watch Cain Leopold's.
Yeah.
Which is
I've seen that movie.
Which is what I started late rewatching last night.
So
what was the actual question?
Didn't they go to like a Trivia Pursuit night or something, or they did some kind of bar night, or no, it was karaoke, which I was like, I hate karaoke. Why does it have to be karaoke?
Yeah, they were at a
no, it was a talent night. I don't think
there was a karaoke bar at one point when he went with her to meet her friends. And they were like, ew, this is gross. Let's sit over here so we can talk to each other.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember anything other than that, but
I gotta look up the chicken bag again.
I do like chicken bag. I liked chicken bag and chicken necklace.
Remind me chicken bag and chicken, because I did this.
It's her first time having any like extra money, because they tripled her salary, which should have made her nervous. I'm like, they're going to kill you at the end of this, for sure. Why would they be throwing money at you?
Because,
they don't have to pay for any of their room and board, because that's being ministry provided. And so she decides she wants to make an extravagant purchase, and she buys this custom chicken bag. Has a tiny little chick coin purse inside.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And he buys her a necklace of a chicken because he's like, it reminded me of chicken bag, and she's like, wears it forever.
Yeah, which I thought that was very romantic, because it shows that he's paying attention and to what she likes.
He's completely obsessed with her.
He is,
but we do not get that because he's so stoic.
Right.
So he tells us we need the.
I was courting you the whole time. Yeah. It's kind of sad when the object of your courting doesn't know.
Well, she would have known, I guess, if she were from 1860 or 65. Is that right? No, 47.
Maybe 1865 too.
That's true.
Probably all the way until like the early 20th century,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah,
in some
definitely.
circles.
So toward the end of the book, we discovered that when Graham first met the bridge, he mistook her for the Inuit woman whose husband he had accidentally killed in the Arctic.
Yep.
What do you think the author is trying to do by making this connection between the two women?
Well, I think it illustrates his, like, immediate magnetism to her.
Mm-hmm.
Because trauma bonds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't really get what
Also, like, a release of xenophobia.
Yeah.
And, like, seeing these people as people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, humanizing. As opposed to, in his time...
Right. They weren't necessarily
Yeah, like,
they were
seen
just
at
lesser.
the same level.
They were
Yeah.
just
He
lesser.
does say when they're talking about slave ships and stuff that he remembers seeing, like, thinking of them not as just, like, numbers and bodies, but, like,
Mhm.
mothers and children and fathers and,
Mhm.
and relationships. Like, I think that's always in him, right?
Right.
Is that
So
is
he has a capacity
right,
to rise above the time that he comes from,
right.
which is his key to success.
And
Yes.
I don't think that she could have emotions for him if he did not have that capacity.
No. Realistically, if he were to, if this person
Actually,
existed,
You're giving her too much credit, I think.
I'm thinking
Because-
of her a future that. Oh, maybe not.
Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking of her now.
Yeah.
Because she rats herself out. She's like, I was in love with him before I knew him. Because she already, like, had this romanticism. She
right?
had already romanticized his...
She had read
Yeah.
his personal letters, seen his
Oh,
portraits.
that's right. That's
and it
right.
goes all the way back to her childhood as a voracious reader. She says something about picking up a book about British sea explorers.
Oh, you're
Right.
right. You're right. You're right.
And one of the things that Somalia accuses her of is trying very hard to shield herself with Britishness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think at the cost of her own identity, she still would have wanted him.
So do you think that that means that this is like a romance that would have happened, like, regardless of the time frame, because he, like, she was in love with him before she met him, but he also was kind of in love with her before he met her,
Yes.
because he felt that draw toward the Inuit woman, right?
Yes, I love this because that means that their love transcends time.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like
They
that a
were
lot.
always going to be in love.
I love it. I want it.
And this is why even when you think they're not going to ever get together, somehow
Of
they do.
course. Of course it wasn't going to end with, they ran away, now I'm sad forever.
Yeah.
I can't end the
I
book like
was
that.
worried.
I was really
The
upset
last
at that
100
point.
pages of this book were very hard to get through.
They were very emotional.
Because I was reading them over, like, I think I had like 75 pages to go yesterday.
Mm.
And so I was reading it like throughout my day. And every time I had to go back to my life, I was like so angry.
Yeah. You're like, but what's going to happen?
You're in the way of me finding this out.
I had this whole plan to use my 4-hour drive to finish my book, and then all of a sudden I was broken down on the side of the highway, and then I had to call the tire store, and all this crap happened, so I had to rush to finish it when I got home.
Right on. I had reading goals, and then my husband exposed me to a book he wanted me to read, so I was like hostage of his audience, which was good, but I feel your pain.
Having finished the book, do you feel you can identify with confidence any characters as explicit heroes or villains? No. I
No,
can't.
yeah, it's
I
all very gray.
Yeah, because like Adela feels like a villain, and then she doesn't, and then she does again, and then I'm like,
You're right.
when Graham comes back and he's like, she told me everything. I'm like, what did she say? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to line up with what
Right.
she sees.
Yeah, she never gets the chance to, like, tell him what she knows from her side of the story. He just is like, I'm leaving, don't talk to me ever again. And you're
Yep.
like, oh, okay. So, like, at some point
Which
you're
is
like,
not
he's
fair
a
because
hero.
She didn't even really know then. He got to know her story before she knew her story. I feel like Adela
No, she
told
did
him.
know, but I don't trust Adela.
No.
I worry that Adela
Told
him
her
a
a
different,
different story. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you see it coming that Adela was her?
No.
No.
I didn't
not
either.
No.
I
That was
just
a
thought it was
complete plot
like,
twist.
I thought she was either from the past or the future. I couldn't tell which.
Mhm.
And I thought the whole, like, the cosmic,
Yes.
cosmetic surgery part of it was that she was falling apart because she wasn't supposed to be in this time frame, which
Yeah.
is sort of what happened was she traveled in time too much.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that it's like, because if she had shown up in the past as the older version of herself, you would have been like, you look like somebody, you know?
Are we related somehow?
So of course I cast the narrator, and I have a fantasy cast for Adela.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the blonde woman from Ted Lasso, whose name I can't think of right now. Which does not work for a little cat. Like, but that's how I pictured her in my mind, is this like very powerful, strong featured.
I was thinking of her as like,
I could see her as an Adela.
oh shoot, what's her name?
But she looks nothing like she, like...
No, but how
the
cosmetic did the cosmetic surgery go? And it gets even worse when because I think I have a perfect fan cast of our narrator.
There's a woman in, I have to figure out what her name is. A movie that I like. Hold on. I'm looking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Kellerman is, she's in a bunch of stuff. She's in Beetlejuice. She's in, I love the movie The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. She's in that. But she's like very like stoic German woman. And not that I think of Adela as a stoic German person, right? Because she's not German.
Yep,
but then it also reminds me of Frau Blucher from
because these are her,
yeah,
like Cloris Leachman.
Yeah, a little Cloris Leachman. That's kind of where I was.
Oh, that's hilarious. There's not a good picture of her. I'm gonna have to like Google her name. Yes. But who I want to be.
This is an audio platform, Karin. Who are we talking about?
She just showed me a picture that you have.
Oh, got it.
This is the girl from Jessie May Lee. Is the girl from Shadow and Bone. I think she'd be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
To look at.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's very
absolutely.
cute.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is fun.
But that does not make sense for any of the women
No.
we've suggested.
Well, I mean, if you give them a lot of plastic surgery, maybe, which is how it happens.
A complete body makeover.
And an eye patch.
And they're older.
Well, the older's fine. Hannah Waddingham is who I'm talking about.
Hannah Waddingham. I don't know who that is.
She was the blonde from Ted Lasso.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that with surgery.
That's who I see as
Yeah.
Adela.
There's also...
So you'd be very shocked if this was a movie, and she's like, plastic surgery, I'm you.
Yeah.
What?
There's a woman I'm thinking of, some character from a movie that has an eye patch. And I can't remember who I'm thinking of, but it's like an older woman with an eye patch, and I'm like, that's a cool person, and I don't remember who it is.
Kill Bill? No, not.
Yeah, it is. It's what's her name in Kill Bill has an eye
Thurman.
patch. No,
she does not.
that other blonde lady who's in Kill Bill. I think she's in
I've
Volume
actually
2.
never seen Kill Bill.
Those are my favorite movies.
Oh,
I mean, they're not my most favorite, but they are very good.
Your favorite
I got
movie
2 more questions.
Daryl Hannah is playing the blonde with the eye patch.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, I really
Yeah.
want you to go watch Kill Bill now because I love those
Daryl
movies.
Hannah is a good. That's a good
I could
cast.
see that.
Actually, Daryl Hannah, except she's too old now, I think. Well, maybe. We don't know how old Adela is. Well,
No.
we sort of do.
She's got a 13-year-old son.
Yeah, she said I'm 20-something years in the future.
Right,
But
so
been
she's
living
maybe
hard.
50.
She's been living hard.
Right.
Because like the future of the empire of the earth is in really bad shape in the future, according to, because of
Was the narrator was born in England, right?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that I was trying to figure out her age.
I'm guessing
Because if
she's
her mom escaped
early
the Khmer
30s.
Rouge,
Yeah,
I
early
looked that
30s
up.
is what I thought.
Okay. Because the Khmer Rouge happened in the mid to late 70s.
Okay.
So that puts her mom, like, let's say 20-ish?
When that's happening.
In the early 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 30s.
Yes, I would say maybe at most 35. Like,
Yeah.
she seemed like in early 30s.
Yes.
Because Graham's 36?
37.
37, okay.
No, I thought he was younger because remember they said, "Oh, this one's the baby of the group."
No, he's 35 when the
Yeah.
thing starts,
Yeah.
when his expedition starts. So I think
Oh.
he's 37.
Okay.
Who says, when does that get said? The baby of the group? Of the expats? Or?
Yeah, the expats. I thought he was the youngest.
I think Maggie's the youngest because she keeps talking about how she has acne.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you interpret the ending of the novel, and what does the future hold
I don't
for
know.
the characters? I don't know if that's.
I don't
really
know.
a
Okay,
question.
well, the future is, the immediate future is that the narrator and Graham get together, and they live in a little cabin, and Maggie has a neighboring cabin.
Yeah.
And they have several children who love and adore them.
Yes.
And they're just the cutest little babies.
They just live off the land
Yeah.
and chill in some cabin somewhere
Yeah.
in British Columbia?
Yeah.
Maybe? Or Alaska?
Yeah. Well, she was thinking it was Alaska.
Alaska, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay. But why did she write this? What is
I don't know! This is what I'm saying.
Oh, I know when she wrote this.
Okay.
Because the other part of this book that was giving me anxiety is that she does a lot of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's like, who knew that drawing would be a scarlet letter of the past?
Right.
Or whatever, however she said that. Because scarlet letter, I hate that book so much. So if you make that literary reference, I'm like,
Meh.
yeah.
I was called, what's her name? Hester.
Hester Prynne.
No, Hester, what was her wild child daughter's name?
Of Hester Prynne?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
Because in high school we had humanities, which was a 2-period course of history and literature in high school, and our instructor,
Pearl.
Hesh up, Pearl, because we used to talk too much in class. So he was, okay, Pearl, Hesh up.
Ouch. I mean, it's a pretty name though.
Yeah, he said Hesh up instead of Hush because he was from the Appalachians. But I'm trying to see. So the author's note was pretty interesting.
There's a time when she says, like, she explicitly tells us, I remember when Graham was with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, so that means there's a time he is not with you.
Right. Because at the beginning, it's a lot of, like, I'm writing this because, like, once...
I need to remember he was here. That's one of the
right,
things
because she says something like after he left, or like when we weren't together anymore, or something. I can't remember how she phrases it, but you're like, wait a minute.
She says things like that several times.
Yeah, and you're like, but what's gonna happen?
And the sting of that,
So is that? I started the sentence. I still don't understand.
That's our narrator talking to herself.
Of the series of events that happen in the book as we know them, because that's what she's writing.
Yes.
That's her experience.
Yes.
And then
I need someone to remember he was here.
Version of hers timeline may or may not exist because they went back in time and changed it. Can I just say really quick?
Yes.
This is very reminiscent of a Star Trek episode I just watched. I don't remember the name of it, but
I don't remember the names. Yeah.
A ship comes through a black hole, and then all of a sudden everything's different, and they're in a war with the Klingons.
Yes.
And then everybody's like a little bit meaner,
Yes.
and like Riker's really rude,
Yes.
and Captain Picard's yelling at people, and you're like,
Yes.
I don't like this. We gotta fix it. And then
Guinan
is like, something's wrong here. And then all of a sudden they fix it, and then everything's back to normal. So it's like, that's the branch
Guinan
of the
and Data
future.
were the only ones who knew.
I don't remember if Data was relatively absent in that episode, actually.
Because I might be
it's
mushing it with the one where
classic
Data
alternative
knows that it's a
universe.
time loop one that I'm thinking of. And
Got
this
it.
is not, one you're talking about is not a time
No,
loop.
this is like a alternate branch that they have to fix, and then everything's back
I
to
should
normal.
text my friend Brian and be like, Katie just described this. What episode is that?
I could look it
I'm
up,
sure
but
he would know.
So I just want to read a little bit of this passage.
Yeah, our author's notes were great.
Yeah. Spring turned to summer. Summer burst and bedded down. My sister got me some freelance proofreading work, which meant I started getting emails again, but at least I wasn't required to kill anyone or spy on my friends. I'd stopped crying every day, though I did still cry. I was living with my parents, though I was mulling over moving back to London. The ministry's hush money gathered moss in my bank account. It was more ready cash than I'd ever had in one place, and I didn't want to touch it. One afternoon, my dad called me downstairs while I was avoiding emails in my sister's old bedroom, now my de facto office. Bit of an eccentric parcel for you. Oh? Been at the depot for a couple of weeks. They've been trying to work out where the house was. Got your name, though. How can they have missed the house? It's numbered. Well, see for yourself. He handed me a small parcel. I instantly felt as if the ground had erupted with crevices. In the top corner was a U.S. stamp, but the rest of the packet was scrawled over with Graham's languid cursive.
Yeah, I guess that would mean they were in Alaska, not British Columbia.
Yeah.
There was no address. Instead, he'd written a description of approximately where he thought the house was and what it looked like based on my stories of my childhood, and put my name on top of it.
I love that because that's how they wrote addresses
Yeah.
in his time.
And it did find her.
One of our knitters has correspondence between her, like, 5 times great-grandparents. So I think it's, like, of this time. And it has, she was telling us, it has, like, notations like this.
Right. So her third house on the left, it's blue. Yeah.
I tore the parcel open. Inside was the missing copy of Rogue Mail. There was something wedged between the pages. I opened the book and plucked out a glossy photograph. In the foreground, there were spruce trees, thrumming emerald green and trampled wild earth. I thought I could pick out a lake in the background, gleaming promisingly. It was anonymous in its loveliness. At the left-hand edge of the photograph, there was a glint of something. I tilted it, squinted, and bent my neck. There were strands blowing in the wind, copper-flushed gold gossamer light, hair. There was also the barest vertical sliver of fuchsia. I was looking at long strawberry blonde hair and the edge of an arm in a hot pink jacket, far enough away from the lens that someone must have taken the picture. This was the photograph that showed 2 people then, one just out of view and the one behind the camera. They were alive. So who's the they?
It's Maggie,
and Graham.
They
Maggie and
escaped
Graham.
together.
That figures the hot pink. I thought it had been Maggie.
Yeah.
I started to
got captured.
Yeah.
I started to put the photograph back in the book, but then I realized that it was marking a page with an underlined passage. I read. She knew, I suppose, that in our mixture of impulse and intelligence we were alike. Her emotions governed her brain, though she would support her side with devastating logic. Logic had nothing to do with her devotion. I should never have suspected that of myself, yet it was true. Yet it is true. I have never taken sides, never leaped wholeheartedly into one scale or the other, nor do I realize disappointments, provided that they are severe, until the occasion is long past. Yet I am ruled by emotions, though I murdered them at birth. At the bottom of the page was another note, written in the same scrambling penmanship he had signed the note in the cairn in 1847. It said, "Of course I loved you," with a D scratched out.
Yeah. I love this book so much.
Because there's a point where she asked, "Did you ever love me?"
Yeah.
And she didn't really get an answer.
He just left the room. He left. He let the door slam behind him.
Do you think that Graham never let her into his room because it was just full of stuff that he's stolen?
Yes, that's exactly where he's been stowing it all.
You're like, don't go in my bedroom. You're like, okay.
It wasn't Victorian propriety.
No, it was just all the crap that he's been stealing.
That's brilliant. Is that all the questions?
That's
Okay.
all.
Okay, so I have like a moment that like this author just crawled inside my heart to live forever.
Okay.
And I hope that she writes lots more. But take your time because it has to be as good as this. So when she confesses to him that she has a mixed racial heritage, he said, "I was pretty sure that was the case." And she's like, How would you know that?
Yeah.
And he said, "That curious color of your lips."
Mm-hmm.
And then
He's been looking at her lips closely.
So I have scandalized a group of men 2 times.
Okay.
One time, Kevin and I were out fishing on the Atlantic Ocean with a little fishing charter. It was just Kevin and I, the captain, and a deckhand. And the fishing was insane. And we were not staying in a place with a kitchen. We were on the other coast, across the country. There was no way to transport excess fish. So you drop your line and you would catch 2. It was double hooked. You'd catch 2 fish every time you dropped your line. It was almost boring.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to be bored like that.
right, if you could keep the fish and feast on it.
Yeah.
Right. So they were measuring to make sure that we were like taking the right size. And I think that the legal limit was 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, well, I'm a woman. I've been lied to about what 6 inches is."
Right.
And the deckhand turned crimson.
That's a classic woman joke.
Yeah, and the captain was like, "Wow." I'm like,
You've never heard that
"Are
before?
you not sailors and fishermen?"
Yeah.
I'm like, so sorry that I offended your
sailor sensibility.
your delicate ears. That's like a moment I treasure of just saying what was in my head and saying a classic joke.
Right.
I didn't come up with that material. So that's a moment I treasure. The other time I scandalized a group of men, it was my husband and his best friend. And
It's always when your husband's around.
There's a
it's more fun that way.
story about this girl that they all knew in high school. And as I was like thinking about sharing the story, I was like, I'm going to be talking about a topless underage girl. But anyway, the one person saw this girl's bosom and like they've always been fascinated about the color of her nipples.
Okay.
And I don't need to say more about that. So I'm sitting in the backseat listening to them like reminisce about this boys story that I've heard 100 times at least. And I was like, you know, guys, I've always thought it matched the color of their lips.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and his friend, my friend, just got very silent.
Quiet.
They weren't sure which
Did
ones
they forget you were in the back seat, or
maybe? and I'm like, did you guys never think about that?
No,
like,
no.
This is not what we talk about with the women around.
I mean, men have nipples too.
There was a whole trend going around on TikTok that was like
the color of
matching.
Your man's, yes.
No. Well, this was before
Okay.
that. This is matching your nipple color to your ideal lipstick.
Oh.
So, like, you go to the store and you have like a really blown up picture on your phone to try and match. I don't know how you do it, but
your lips aren't. I mean, I think it's like a physiological thing that your
It
lips
might be.
are very close to the color of your
So
nipple
we're
color.
not really
Go
talking
home
about
and check.
we're not really talking about the ones on our face.
yes, your lips.
Oh, wow, Karin, you just scandalized me.
Well, that's what I thought the guys were scandalized
we were-
by.
That's interesting. Because I actually do not want to ask my husband what he was thinking when I said that.
Yeah, let's just let it be funny.
Let's wrap it up. We're a little over time.
Anyway, she crawled inside my heart
Okay,
in
got
that
it.
scene.
Yeah,
I guess that
okay.
was 2 scenes.
Yes, 2 separate scenes.
Just everything.
All right.
Yeah, okay. On that scandalous note,
Is it scandalous? It's
Not really.
biological.
No.
I like the other thing that followed the lip color thing, which is match your nail polish color to your man's.
Yeah. That was a good one, too. That's more recent TikTok trend, I think.
Mhm.
What else did you read this month?
Oh.
I didn't read anything.
Congratulations!
Yay!
You finished the book
I
club
finished the
then.
book! Woohoo!
That's a 10-hour audiobook.
Yeah.
It's a reasonably sized physical book. I'm very glad that it was a long wait at the library because I have discovered I do not like switching between audio and reading.
Yeah.
I want to read it and have my own voice in my head, or I want to be engaged with it from the beginning of the narrator's voice, and I don't want to switch.
That makes sense.
I have my list ready. Shall I?
go for it.
Okay. Katie,
Mm.
thank you for sharing about the love hypothesis.
Oh, that was a good one, huh?
Yeah. I, binged that in maybe one night.
It was a short and sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had it at a high speed.
Yep.
And you're right. The last chapter's very good.
Yes, it is very good.
The whole thing's very good. I don't mind picturing Adam Driver as the...
No, I had a great time reading that book.
Yeah. My other friend, Kaity, she was reading Mrs. Nash's Ashes by Sarah Adler, which is, the premise is a young woman, ends up befriending and living with this lady who dies, and she's taking her ashes to this woman's great love, which was, another woman that they met during World War II, and Mrs. Nash thought that she had died during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Or, no, she had died during a different military deployment, I think maybe Korea. And it turned out she'd been alive all these years. And so she was going to bring the ashes to this woman whom she loved. And it's beautiful. It's very good. All the Demons Are Here is the latest and last novel by Jake Tapper. I've been working on his 3 novels, and this one was very good. They all follow the same family in this, politically powerful Washington couple and then their children. And this one's set in the 70s, and I think all of them are very good. The Age of Magical Overthinking, which I think Karin also read.
I'm reading it. Yeah. It's good.
I have mixed feelings on it.
I'm not all the way through it. I'm just a few chapters in.
So it's a nonfiction book where the author is talking about all the like ways we trick our brains, essentially, in the modern world, creating the high levels of anxiety we all live with. Her name is Amanda Montell. I thought it was fun. And every time I like started to resent what she was saying, I was like, yeah, it's because you're uncomfortable with what she's revealing. I mean, I didn't agree with everything she said, but I thought it was very interesting and definitely worth visiting. And then the book my husband has turned me on to it's an Amazon exclusive. Because I was like, Kevin, why aren't you using the library app? Why don't you have 27 library cards in the Libby app? He goes to all those libraries.
Right. He could be right up there with you.
And I'm like, I could get any book I want right now. And he's like, well, try to get this one. And I looked, and I was like, it's an Amazon. There's nothing. They didn't even recognize the title. It's an Amazon exclusive.
Got it.
Okay. It's called We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis Taylor. There are 5 books, and the premise is that this is almost like Project Hail Mary, where if I tell you the premise, you're gonna maybe it's gonna get spoiled a little bit. But it's sort of a near future. It's about 100 years in the future, and
what's the name of the book?
We Are Legion, We Are Bob.
We Are Bob. Okay.
Yeah. So it's fun and lighthearted. It's a real romp through geekdom.
Nice.
Oh, I want
It's
that.
so geeky. There was one meme Kevin and I did not.
Oh.
Neither of us understood. So it's fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's space. It's space travel. It's geeky. It's examining humanity and what we're doing to the Earth and what the possible outcomes will be. It's a little bit space. Like, I'm sorry, a little bit, like, alien and extraterrestrial experiences. It's fun.
Okay. Cool. Karin, what'd you read?
Well, I finished the 4-book series about the Hunger Games. I was re-listening to them.
Nice.
That was good. I really enjoyed How We End by L.M. Juniper. And let me pull up the little blurb about it that Libby had on it. Hold on.
It looks post-apocalyptical.
Absolutely. You know how I like that genre. It's Last of Us meets The Walking Dead. In this post-apocalyptic story, perfect for fans of the Cascadia series or Until the End of the World by Sarah Lyons Flemings. A deadly infection, 7 strangers, the fight for survival begins. It's one of the few that have a non-binary primary character.
Nice.
And the race does play into this as well. But Jake didn't think his night could get worse, but that was before the train stops deep underground and zombies attack. But they call them shamblers. They call them all different kinds of names. And anytime someone says zombies, they say, don't call them that. That sounds stupid. Well, what do you call them? And it takes the premise that they're not all just sure, you get the shamblers, the people that just kind of shuffle along, but you get some that are incredibly intelligent and cognizant and can even mimic human voice to try to lure people in. You get the one that kind of guides and shepherds the others, and it's really, really interesting. But it starts in London, and before you know it, it goes all the way around. It was all over the world, but it was really, really, really good. But that is it. That and this and our current book.
Nice.
The current book was very good. Have I said that already?
Yeah, I think you like it.
I am listening to Oracle right now, and I like it because it's by Joshua it's by Andrew let's see, what's the author's name? Oh, anyway, it's narrated by Joshua Jackson. The guy from Fringe.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of other things. So I'm really enjoying that. I have 3 hours and 34 minutes left on that one.
Nice. All right.
What are we reading next, Katie?
I went for a wander around the bookstore to try and figure out what I wanted to read, and it was a little bit of a struggle to try and find something. But I was thinking about books from our book club from the past that I've really enjoyed and wanted to go back into that era. So we're going to read Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. It says...
One word or two?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's 2. The only mortal in a family of gods, Medusa, is the youngest of the Gorgon sisters.
Yeah, I recognize this cover.
Unlike her sisters, Medusa grows older, experiences change, feels weakness. Her mortal lifespan gives her an urgency that her family will never know. When the sea god Poseidon assaults Medusa in Athene's temple, the goddess is enraged. Furious by the violation of her sacred space, Athene takes revenge on the young woman. Punished for Poseidon's actions, Medusa is forever transformed. Writhing snakes replace her hair, and her gaze will turn any living creature to stone. Cursed with the power to destroy all she loves with one look, Medusa condemns herself to a life of solitude until Perseus embarks on a fateful quest to fetch the head of a Gorgon. In Stone Blind, classicist and comedian Natalie Haynes turns our understanding of this legendary myth on its head, bringing empathy and nuance to one of the earliest stories in which a woman, injured by a powerful man, is blamed, punished, and monstered for the assault. Delving into the origins of this mythic tale, Haynes revitalizes and reconstructs Medusa's story with her passion and fierce wit, offering a timely retelling of this classic myth that speaks to us today. Sort of on the shoulders of, like, Circe and... we didn't read Song of Achilles for the book club, but Song of Achilles and The Witch's Heart. Mm-hmm. That's Norse mythology, but still in that, I like mythology kind of thing, so.
I love it.
Cool. So that is my choice of book for our next episode of our podcast.
Love it.
So if you have read either Stone Blind or The Ministry of Time, reach out and let us know what your thoughts were on either of them. If you have books that you would like to recommend to us, we would like to hear those too. Also, check out our Patreon. We have changed things up over there a little bit. Instead of lots of different tiers, we've simplified things a little bit. So you've got your $3 tier, which just gets you like a little tip for us and a little thank you. And then the $5 tier gets you your bonus content every month. So it's a little bit cheaper now than it was. So go check out our Patreon if you want to hear more from us. And anybody have anything else? Or are we calling it?
That's it.
Cool.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.